Guinea. Oop. Oh, we are on the right microphone. Okay, anyway, Guinea has a coup overnight, so we'll be talking about some military action that could happen right to start off the show here, so we will get into that as we get started. The jobs report came out, and it was, well, it was not good news, so we'll talk just a bit about what that is and what the reaction was for that. The Taliban has been stopping airplanes from leaving their airport as refugees settle in various U.S. states and come up with some issues about child brides, so we'll talk just a bit about that. And Joe Rogan gets in the news. People wonder if he has lost his contract or not, and we'll go over whether or not he actually did. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, do you trust the plan yet? I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and, well, I started out with not a whole lot to go over here, but, you know, the news stops for nobody here, and we have got plenty to cover today. It's been a little bit of a mess, and some of this I wonder if it was planned, some of it I wonder if it wasn't, but regardless, we're going to continue to have these arguments and try to figure out who is right, who is wrong, and where we go into the world here. So we'll go over all of this and the finance as well. But before we get started, head on over and check out my friends who will be joining me in an upcoming project coming up at the later part of this fall. I am, of course, talking about the Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, and The Freckles and Brit Show. Go over there, check out all those programs, and they'll all be gathered conveniently into one place coming up here in the near future. So you can go and check out all of them. They're great programs. They're great friends to the show. And as always, you can go and help them support great creators. All right, let's get into it here, shall we? Let's find my opening article here for the Dow. There we go. The Dow spent almost all of Friday down, which, I mean, you would expect given the fact of what the jobs report looked like at the end of Friday, and the fact that it had been going down no matter what anyway. So, yeah, I'm not surprised off this. I'm a little surprised it came almost back up to where it was before, though. That actually shocked me a little bit, but, you know, here we sit now. We got to talk about the jobs report. We got to talk about what this means for the markets going forward and where this goes from here, but that's where you're sitting at right now. This chart will not move until tomorrow after we get started because today is Labor Day in the United States, and that means that our markets are closed. So this is where we're going to sit until, well, we'll talk about this again on Wednesday. As far as your Bitcoin goes, your Bitcoin has come up to, let's get a refresh on this, $51,513 US dollars and 20 US cents. That is a $200 drop from overnight, because I actually looked this up overnight. But this is still up slightly from what we saw on Friday as well. So looks like your Bitcoin might be coming back. Watch it. See where it goes. See where you want to buy. It's never financial advice, but there are people that have talked about the fact that this could get to 100,000 by the end of the year. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen at this point. I mean, it's September now. If we were having this conversation in April, I'd say, maybe. I don't think it'll do it this year, but it's definitely headed that direction. So if you look at that and you see something you like, go ahead and pick some of that up. Looking in at your metal prices here for the morning. Your current scrap metal prices, your copper has gone up over the most part. Bare copper wire, insulated copper wire. Steel looks like it's gone down, and brass looks like it's gone down as well. Most of your iron-based stuff is going down. Your aluminum is mixed. It looks like it's mostly up, but you've got a couple downs in there as well. So watch where your metal goes, and it looks like maybe time to go and grab some metal because it might be, or aluminum rather, because it might be at its peak. Hold on to your copper though, because that looks like that's on the rise again, and you might be able to get a better price for it if you wait a couple days. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. Let's actually get the live chat up here too, see what you guys are doing. I'm not expecting a whole lot just because, yeah. It's Labor Day. A lot of people went out and partied and barbecued last night, but we still got to do the news, so let's see what we got going on. All right. From Investors Business Daily to start off with Dow Jones Futures, why the market rally is so strong. Tesla holds buy point despite bad news. From Ed Carson. Hey look, an advertisement right there in the middle of it. Alright, from Ed Carson, Dow Jones Futures rose slightly Monday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures, with the U.S. markets closed for Labor Day. The stock market rally had another solid week, until the end, with growth and small cap stocks leading once again. The S&P 500 index and NASDAQ Composite hit record highs. Negative Tesla headlines are building up on expanding crash probes and product delays, but Tesla stock held its buy point on Friday. PayPal, Amazon, Lululemon, Nike, and Applied Materials are all finding support near their 50-day moving averages, offering potential buying opportunities. Tesla and PayPal are on the IBD leaderboard. PayPal is also on IBD long-term leaders. The S&P 500 News Match Group, Ceridian, Brown & Brown will move from the S&P Midcap 400 to the S&P 500 before the open on Monday, September 20th. The Match Group is on there, huh? It looks like a bunch of people want to go out and start dating. Tandem Diabetes will be added to the S&P 400 midcap. MicroStrategy is being dropped from the S&P Small Cap 600. Yeah, once you see S&P, it's so habitual to just say 500, but it's not the 500, it's the midcap 400. All right, on the futures, Dow futures rose 0.2% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures advanced 0.2%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.25%. Dow futures will trade normally Sunday night and on Monday, but U.S. stock exchanges will be closed on September 6th for the Labor Day holiday. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session, and neither does the futures trading that happens on a holiday. So, it's all closed. We'll check back with this. Let's grab one here from our friend Ron Helton's favorite publication, from Bloomberg, from his favorite politician, of course. Asia stocks eye Japan lift, traders mull weak jobs market wrap. From Andrea Papuk. So we'll talk just a bit about some of the European and Asian markets here because they're open. This is just a U.S. holiday. Let's see what they have to say. Asian stocks look to set for a boost on Monday from Japan, where the planned exit of the Prime Minister sparked a rally. Traders are also weighing on the impact of sharply slower U.S. hiring on the stimulus outlook. Futures for Japan jumped more than 1% following a Topix index surge Friday to a 3-decade high on hopes of better pandemic management and more spending by Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga's successor. Futures for Hong Kong inched higher but slipped for Australia. The dollar was steady. U.S. contracts fluctuated. The S&P 500 ended little changed Friday, with the NASDAQ 100 edged up to a record and Treasury yields rose as investors digested disappointing U.S. payroll growth coupled with faster than projected wage increases. U.S. markets are closed Monday for the Labor Day holiday. There is no cash trading for treasuries. In China, officials pledged to tighten supervision in the financial services industry, highlighting the risk of further turbulence from a regulatory onslaught on the private sector. Meanwhile, Beijing's municipal government has proposed an investment in the DD Global Incorporated that would give state-run firms control of the world's largest ride-hailing company. The U.S. economy added 235,000 jobs in August, the smallest gain in 7 months. As the Delta variant spread, the soft report seems likely to prompt a Federal Reserve policymakers to delay considering a move to scale back asset purchases at their September meeting. It also points to a challenging period of slower economic reopening and elevated price pressures. So that's what we're seeing going on around the world, and we're going to start off with some other stuff from happening around the world. Starting with some breaking stuff happening just overnight here. Starting with CNN, Guinean military officer says President Alpha Conde arrested as apparent coup unfolds from Umaro Jao, Karim Kadar, and David McKenzie. A Guinean military officer broadcast a statement Sunday announcing that Guinea's constitution has been dissolved in an apparent coup. We will no longer entrust politics to man. We will entrust it to people. We come only for that. It is the duty of a soldier to save the country, Guinean Army officer Mamadi Doumbouya says in the video. An advisor to President Alpha Conde told CNN that Conde is under arrest and that the coup has taken place in the West African country. The location of the 83-year-old, who won a heavily disputed election last year, is unclear. In the video, Doumbouya, wearing a Special Forces uniform, says they have arrested Conde and suspended the Constitution, the government, and all other institutions. He also announced the closing of land and air borders. The video has been widely circulated and reported by local media. In a later update that was broadcast on state TV, military officers declared a nationwide curfew and said Conde was unharmed. We want to reassure the national and international community that the physical and moral integrity of former President Alpha Conde is not threatened, a military officer said, according to translation published by Reuters. We took all necessary measures for him to have access to medical care and be in touch with his physicians. No clear evidence was provided by Conde's condition, and CNN has not been able to verify the military officer's claims. The officers went on to say that a nationwide curfew has been declared in Guinea. The curfew is implemented from 8 p.m. nationwide, and this is until further notice, an officer said, reading from a statement. The officers also invited outgoing ministers and former heads of institution to meet at 11 a.m. on Monday. Any failure to attend will be considered as a rebellion against the CNRD, they said, referring to the group's name, which in French stands for the National Rally and Development Committee. So, as of right now, here we go. This is from the U.S. I was going to say, I don't see any verification to what the Daily Wire said about this, that the U.S. Wants to get involved with this, but here it is, a couple paragraphs down. The U.S. State Department warned that the apparent coup could make it harder for Guinea's international partners to support it. Violence and any extra constitutional measures will only erode Guinea's prospects for peace, stability, and prosperity, the department said in a statement on Sunday. These actions could limit the ability of the U.S. and Guinea's other international partners to support the country as it navigates a path towards national unity and a brighter future for the Guinean people. In a statement published on Sunday, the African Union condemned what it's called a power grab. AU's chairperson, H.E. Felix Tshisekedi, and the chairman of the Australian Commission, AU, that's African Union, not Australian, H.E. Musa Faki Mahamat, asked for the immediate release of President Alpha Conde, according to the statement. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres also called for Conde's release as reports of the apparent coup unfolded. I am closely following the situation in Guinea very closely. I strongly condemn any takeover of the government by force of the gun and call for the immediate release of President Alpha Conde, Guterres said in a tweet on Sunday. So this will be something to watch here and see where we go and see if the U.S. gets involved in this. I know that with the end of Afghanistan, I think some of the people are itching to go back to war and find something else coming out of this. I don't know where this goes. I don't know what this is going to do to affect the rest of the world. I know that Elaine and I both worried about Myanmar when it was first happening, but thus far we have not seen any major U.S. involvement to that, so this might just go under the radar as well. But we will see what happens with that. Another one coming up here from Reuters, Taiwan scrambles jets against renewed Chinese military activity. I have no author given. Taiwan's Air Force scrambled Sunday against renewed Chinese military activity, with its defense ministry reporting that 19 aircraft, including nuclear-capable bombers, had flown into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Chinese claim Taiwan has complained for a year or more of repeated missions by China's Air Force near the self-ruled island, often in the southwestern part of its air defense zone near the Taiwan-controlled Pratas Islands. The latest Chinese mission involved 10 J-16 and 4 Su-30 fighters, as well as 4 H-6 bombers, which can carry nuclear weapons and anti-submarine aircraft, Taiwan's defense ministry said. Taiwanese combat aircraft were dispatched to warn away the Chinese aircraft while missile systems were deployed to monitor them, the ministry said. The Chinese aircraft flew into an area closer to the Chinese than the Taiwanese coast, roughly northeast of the Pratas, according to a map provided by Taiwanese Defense Ministry. There was no immediate comment from China. So I just wanted to touch briefly on that too, because once again, this is a situation, and a lot of the world has eyes on Taiwan because the US had made a promise to protect Taiwan in the face of China, and that's going to be something that gets affected, especially with the Afghanistan withdrawal. And I know that China right now is getting a little bit of a big dick about going after their enemies and the things that they want to, the people that they want to take over, the countries that they want to have, the countries that they want to own. So this is also one to watch. Once again, as of right now, there is no reason for concern, but there is at least, you want to pay attention to it to see if this is where the U.S. brings its military force next and how they can build patriotism to come out and try to get the American people behind it. We will see what happens with that. All right, let's get into the jobs report stuff here. Starting from the Hill. Jobs report adds fresh concerns over Monday's unemployment cliff from Sylvan Lane. More than 9 million Americans are set to lose their unemployment benefits, and millions more will see their weekly incomes plummet as a host of federal pandemic jobless aid benefit programs expire next week. 3 programs covering the combined 12.1 million people will end on Monday without action from the White House or Congress. 26 states pulled out of at least some of those programs earlier this summer as businesses struggled to fill a record-breaking 9 million job openings. But there are still 5.4 million gig workers, contractors, and others not covered by traditional unemployment insurance who will lose their weekly benefits early next week. Another 3.9 million Americans receiving extended aid will see those payments disappear on Monday as well. And a separate 3.9 million Americans will no longer receive $300 weekly supplements to other job aid programs, leaving them with substantially less money. On top of that, the August jobs report, released on Friday, showed a significant slowdown in the rate of hiring, indicating a tougher job market in September. President Biden, moderate Democrat lawmakers, and virtually all Republicans have argued that it's time for the additional support to expire after several months of rapid job growth up until August and inflation lingering at an uncomfortable height. Recent studies have also shown a noticeable uptick in job growth in states that pulled out of the unemployment insurance programs, but with limited impact on labor force participation. The question is expanded UI substantially holding back job growth? I do think that it is, as Azam Ozimek, chief economist at Upwork. I think that the end of UI expansion will accelerate job growth and get people back to work, but it won't end the economic damages from the pandemic, he added. While economists have quarreled for months over how much the federal programs have held back job gains, they widely agree it's not the only factor keeping potential workers on the sidelines. Roughly 5.6 million Americans said they were unable to work because their employer closed or lost businesses due to the pandemic, and another 1.5 million said they weren't even able to look for a job because of a pandemic-related restraint, according to the August jobs report released by the Labor Department on Friday. So the Hill is trying to push this out towards the UI, which that's absolutely the reason that it is. It's the expanded unemployment insurance. I really think that coming up this next month, when we come back and revisit this in the early part of October, we're going to see a very, very different story about the number of jobs and even possibly the unemployment number. As people look at, I know a lot of people say that starting tomorrow you're gonna start seeing a lot of jobs. I don't think it's gonna start tomorrow. I think it's gonna take about 2 weeks when people realize that they're not gonna get the extra unemployment insurance anymore. And a lot of this is going to depend as well on how their individual states do things on top of it. I know that in certain states, they kept up the original mandate of if you're not out actively looking for a job, then you don't get your unemployment insurance anymore. If you turn down a job, you automatically lose your unemployment insurance. On a lot of states, I think that was suspended during the pandemic, and it will depend a lot on how many of these states start to bring this back, or how many states continue to have their suspension off this. Because even getting a little bit of money, even if it's not the extra $300, that's going to hold people over and tide them over for a little bit longer if they don't want to go back to work. It's not going to be as comfortable as when they were getting the extra $300, but it'll tide them over a little bit. So we will see what happens with that. Let's grab one from the New York Post. Biden uses slow jobs report to urge Congress to pass $4.7 trillion in spending. This is from Will Fewer and Stephen Nelson. President Biden on Friday pinned the blame for disappointing monthly job growth figures on the Delta variant, using the report to urge Congress to pass his proposals for $4.7 trillion in new federal spending. The U.S. added just 235,000 jobs in August, far short of the 720,000 positions that economists surveyed by the Dow Jones expected, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data. There's no question that the Delta variant is why today's job report isn't stronger. I know people were looking, and I was hoping for a higher number, Biden said at the White House. People weren't looking, dude. Biden framed the bad news as cause to finish the jobs of passing my economic agenda, which is stalled in Congress as moderate Democrats cite concerns about the national debt and inflation. We need Congress to finish the job, to come through for the American people, and ensure the economy continues to gain strength and stability, man. And come on, man, just do what I tell you to do, because otherwise I'll send Corn Pop over after you. Come on, man. Biden on Thursday cited deadly flooding in New York as a different reason to pass the potential spending bills. House Democrats are slow walking a Senate-passed $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill in hopes of improving the outlook for a more contentious $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation package of tax hikes and social spending that lacks bipartisan support. In the meantime, Biden urges the states to repurpose unused federal relief funds to finance extended boosted unemployment, and set to end this month. About half of states already cut off the special $300 weekly federal supplement, saying it gave low-wage workers a disincentive to return to their jobs. The U.S. unemployment rate was 5.2% according to the latest data. Let's actually listen to the House planning chief and see what it is that he actually has to say here.
Tables. Today's report shows that the steps we've taken, passing the rescue plan and vaccinating 175 million people, make our economy capable of growing and adding jobs even in the face of this continuing Delta surge. A strength in our economy very different from the way things were last winter. There's no question the Delta variant is why today's job report isn't stronger. I know people were looking, and I was hoping for a higher number. But next week, I'll lay out the next steps that we're going to need to combat the Delta variant, to address some of those fears and concerns. I want to talk about how we'll further protect our schools, our businesses, our economy, and our families from the threat of Delta. As we continue to fight the Delta variant, the American Rescue Plan, we put tables. Today's report shows that the steps we've taken.
So, and I mean, of course, that's the direction we're going to go. That it's the Delta variant. But realistically, I mean, people aren't afraid of this thing anymore. Realistically, you know, you might be able to go into a very, very blue state, a very blue area, and find people that are still afraid of this. I know I have mentioned numerous times that I will not spend money in Dane County, Wisconsin, which means I won't stop there. So I won't get to go see the very bluest part of the state. But, you know, for something that we're supposed to be panicking, we're supposed to be stopping around, I walk around various areas in Janesville, and I see zero mask, nothing. Maybe one or two. A couple people here and there will have one, but for the most part, it is zero mask everywhere. Even a lot of the workers are starting to go away from it. Now, some of them have corporate structures that require them to have it, but a lot of them at this point are just, they're going away from it because nobody's afraid of this thing. And, you know, we kept hearing the panic porn constantly, over and over again of, oh my God, the Delta variant or the Mu variant or the Lambda variant, they can all get around the vaccine. What do we do? What do we do? Oh my God, what do we do? And yet, nobody has gone back to put the mask on. Unless it is that the governor has come out and said that you must, which that's a whole completely different question that we need to have answered at some point as to why people accept what the governor says without question. We won't go into that in this show. But this isn't something that people are afraid of. So, yes, people have the ability to get back out there and work. And like I said, honestly, once this whole unemployment insurance thing kicks back, I think we're going to see a lot of desperate people start to realize that, hey, the money's gone. We got to do something here. And I think a lot of them are going to go back and, well, do something. So that's what we're seeing coming off of that. Let's grab one from CNBC. Going back to the end of federal unemployment benefits. Federal unemployment benefits end this week for millions of Americans. Many are scared of what comes next. Well, then they go out and they decide, do I want to get a cold or do I want to starve to death? That's what they do. From Greg Arikersey and Carmen Reinecke. Misty Todd has used unemployment benefits to pay bills since losing her convenience store job in March last year. But the 37-year-old Las Vegas resident is unsure how she'll afford rent, groceries, and essentials for her 2-month-old daughter after the weekend when federal unemployment assistance will end for millions of Americans. Her partner, Varick Jones, who worked at a restaurant, will also lose his benefits. Their job searches have been unsuccessful so far. Really? Really? Because I don't know how it is in Vegas. I don't. But I know if you come here, it's not every third window. It is every window has a help wanted sign here. They might skip some of the paperwork and get you working tomorrow if you come up here and start working. And I'm willing to bet the rent is a lot cheaper too, by the way. Every convenience store up here, I mean, you would have no trouble finding a job up here. I don't know what the situation is down in Vegas, but you would have zero trouble going back to work tomorrow if you were here. We were surviving off unemployment, Todd said. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a job and no way to pay my rent or anything else. The federal government expanded the safety net for jobless to a historic degree last year. When the U.S. was in the throes of the most rapid economic downturn in history, the CARES Act, passed in March of 2020, which was a gigantic mistake, by the way, raised weekly jobless benefits to $600 a week and later $300 a week, offered aid to workers typically ineligible for traditional state benefits, such as self-employed, gig workers, and part-timers, and extended how long people could collect aid. Congress twice extended the programs, last December and again this March, but opted not to do the same. That means that about 9 million people are poised to lose their benefits by Labor Day, according to an estimate from the Century Foundation. Another 3 million or so will see their weekly benefits reduced. Families are scared of what comes next. It's going to leave some folks in a bad situation. Sylvia Allegretto, an economist and co-chair of the Center for Wage and Employment Dynamics at the University of California, Berkeley, said of this weekend's unemployment cliff. The economy, for many reasons, has not been fully recovered and won't be for quite a while given this unfortunate but massive surge in COVID we're seeing across the country, she added. The Delta variant has added pressure to an already uneven economic recovery. The U.S. added 253,000 jobs in August and marked a slowdown from the roughly 1 million in both June and July. Got a feeling that those numbers were cooked a little bit too. And yes, they go on to the disincentive to work. So I want to touch on this for just a bit because, of course, what does CNBC do? And, I'm doing exactly what they expect to do too. We're stopping. I'm not reading this article past the halfway part because we do have other stuff to get to and some other stuff to get onto. But this is what CNBC does. And I mean, we've seen it from them. We've seen it from NBC. We've seen it from CNN. Hell, we've even seen it from Fox. They come out with this great anecdote of, oh my God, Sylvie. And what was the other guy's name? Let's get back up to the top so I can do this more smoothly. Sylvie and Varick. Oh my God, what are they going to do? They have their children at home. Neither one of them can find work. There's nothing that they can do. They're going to lose everything. Because the evil Republicans won't pass the $4.7 trillion of spending. Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? When full out. You have other politicians out there, and I mean, CNBC will conveniently ignore them that say, no, hold the line, don't go back to work until they give you X amount of dollars, which will go up again because the dollar is inflating out of fucking control. So right now, I mean, you've got your AOC biscuits, your Ilhan Omars, your Rashida Tlaibs that are out there telling their constituents, and the people who aren't their constituents that still follow them, no, don't go back to work at your low-wage job. Hold out, hold up. It's not the Sylvie and the Barrick. It's not those two who actually do have a legitimate concern. It's the people who are single, living in an apartment somewhere in, well, let's say Madison, for example, who think that it's their constitutional right and it's their right for being born that they should get a $70,000 a year job for doing absolutely nothing. And with the inability to get fired for it. Those are the ones who are holding these unemployment numbers down and not filling the jobs. I'm willing to bet that without the unemployment benefits, Sylvie and Barrick are going to be out there and working by the end of the week, once they realize what's going to happen with their 2-year-old daughter. But the rich socialite Madisonites that came out of University of Wisconsin are going to sit there and say, no, I don't want to sit and play video games. You keep giving me goddamn unemployment. That's the ones we're concerned about, not the ones who actually have the kids. So that's what we're going to see coming back up out of that. Let's grab... I have one more on the unemployment side of this. Because KTLA decided to bring this down more closely to California. Federal unemployment benefits expiring in California. From Norin Salahi. Yeah, that's how we're going to pronounce that one. With most federal unemployment benefits expiring Saturday, many Californians will see their unemployment benefits ending or being reduced. On Saturday night, 4 pandemic-related unemployment programs will expire. The Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, the Pandemic Additional Compensation, and Mixed Earner Unemployment Compensation. That means aid to 2.2 million Californians will be cut off, or was cut off, because this was posted on the 3rd. This aid was cut off right before the U.S. aid was also cut off. Another 500,000 Californians will stop getting the extra weekly $300 federal supplement with their payments, though they'll continue to receive regular state unemployment insurance, officials said. The loss of the federal programs comes at the same month as California's evictions moratorium is set to expire on September 30th. Many of those who were benefiting from the programs were gig workers, the self-employed, and others not eligible for the regular state unemployment benefits, according to the LA Times. Look, LA Times and Los Angeles government, I don't give a fuck what you have to say about gig workers, because you've already made it point fucking blank clear that you hate them. With these unconstitutional laws that you have, providing that they have to work for a company so they can get benefits. They can't be gig workers anymore. I don't care what you have to say about gig workers. See, you can bring them in and you can make a big sob story and cry, oh, the gig workers, we did everything we could to eliminate gig workers and they're still gig workers and they're not going to get their unemployment anymore. Fucking spare me. As if we didn't look back 2 weeks ago and read where your Supreme Court found it unconstitutional for gig workers to undercut the new law mandating insurance and mandating that they become employees. Fuck you. For those whose federal unemployment benefits are ending, the EDD is encouraging them to apply for other programs expanded by the American Rescue Plan. They include up to $234 per person per month in food assistance via CalFresh, rental and utility assistance from the Housing is Key program, and health insurance through Covered California. On September 11th, the federal extension program that gives up to 13 weeks of additional benefits for people who used all their unemployment benefits during a period of high unemployment will also end. Those affected by any of the programs expiring should have received a notice from the EDD. Any weeks of unemployment that occurred before these programs expire can still be paid retroactively if a claimant is later determined to be eligible for those weeks of benefits, officials said. The federal government does not allow for payments after the programs end, even if people still have balances left on their claims. the EDD said. And some people who are receiving help through the federal programs may not be able to qualify for regular state unemployment insurance if they don't get any income past 18 months. So yes, not only on top of the federal benefits ending, but all of California's state benefits have either ended at this point or will be ending in the near future. But Newsom is begging, get on these other programs. Just get on these other programs, please. Get on these other programs so that we can still take care of you and you'll still vote for me. Vote no on the recall, man. Just vote no. All right. So that's what we're seeing from unemployment. Let's talk Afghanistan. Starting from KMOV4. Biden visits wounded service members at Walter Reed. From Devon Cole. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. You know, check the watch Biden. I wouldn't recommend you going over to Walter Reed, dude. I wouldn't. I think that's probably a bad idea. President Biden and First Lady Jill traveled to Walter Reed Medical Center in Maryland on Thursday to visit wounded U.S. service members. Tonight, the President and the First Lady are visiting wounded warriors at Walter Reed, the White House said in a statement. Well, the White House has not said which service members the Bidens are visiting. Probably the ones who weren't in the blast zone, because they'll probably get an earful from those. CNN reported earlier Thursday that there were U.S. Marines at Walter Reed who had been wounded in a deadly terrorist attack last week in Kabul, Afghanistan. Of the 15 Marines being treated at Walter Reed, 1 is in critical condition, 3 are in serious condition, and 11 are in stable condition, Marine Corps spokesman Major Jim Stenger said. The visit by the Bidens comes a week after the terrorist bombing outside Kabul's airport killed 13 service members and at least 170 others. The attack took place as American troops were racing to airlift U.S. citizens and Afghan allies out of the country ahead of an August 31st withdrawal deadline. Last week, the Pentagon said 2 high-profile ISIS targets have been killed. Yes, 1 empty automobile and 1 empty building. And another injured in a U.S. drone strike in Afghanistan, a retaliatory step following the attack on U.S. forces. On Sunday, the President and First Lady attended what the military calls a dignified transfer, when the flag-draped cases carrying the remains of 13 American service members killed in the attack returned to the U.S. And Biden continually checked his watch through this. Dude, I don't recommend doing something like this right now. I really don't. I'm not saying that Biden shouldn't do that because he is the commander-in-chief and he's responsible, but right now the wounds are fresh and the people are pissed. So I wouldn't do it if it was me. I would not do it at all. But regardless, he's doing it. And he did it. I kind of wish I could be a fly on the wall for that. Just to hear some of the flack that he got back from it. While he sat there and wandered away and wondered where his pants were. Whether or not they were on him. Here's some interesting stuff coming out of Afghanistan. State Department blocking private rescue flights from leaving Afghanistan. Organizers say blood is on their hands. From Houston Keene and Peter Hassan. Americans engaged in the rescue of U.S. citizens, SIVs, and green card holders left behind by President Biden in Afghanistan are horrified by what they describe as inexplicable delays from the State Department that are preventing evacuation flights from leaving the country. The State Department's delays are recklessly endangering American lives. 3 different individuals involved in the private evacuation effort told Fox News. Unnamed sources, of course. Rick Clay, who runs the private rescue group Plan B, told Fox News that the State Department is the only thing preventing the flights he's organizing from leaving Afghanistan. Dude, if it was me, I would have that hammer down and get that thing in the air as quickly as I could and face the repercussions later, if you're really that concerned about getting out of the country. Land that thing in Saudi Arabia or Qatar and then worry about the repercussions after that, once you're off of Afghan soil, but hey, that's just me. Two other American individuals separately involved in the evacuation efforts, whom Fox News is not naming to avoid jeopardizing ongoing rescue efforts, similarly said that the State Department is the sole entity preventing their charter flights from leaving Afghanistan. This is zero place to be negotiating with American lives. Those are people standing on the tarmac and All it takes is a fucking phone call. One of those individuals who's been integral to private evacuation efforts from Afghanistan told Fox News. If one life is lost as a result of this, the blood is on the White House's hands. The blood is on their hands, that individual said, adding, it's not the Taliban that's holding up as much as it sickens me to say that, it's the U.S. government. The individual suggested that the State Department's obstruction is motivated in part by embarrassment that the private individuals are rescuing Americans that the U.S. government left behind. Military command over Al Udeid Air Base in Doha, Qatar, have informed those seeking a clearance to land that they must first go through the State Department to gain approval, an email reviewed by Fox News shows. So, that's a thing. That's definitely a thing, and that's something that's definitely worth some concern as well. Why, oh why, would the evacuation effort be stalled by our own State Department? Unless, and this is the thing that really bothers me about this, because there is a narrative that's being out there. I mentioned, when Kamala Harris was talking about the Texas abortion ban, I quote tweeted her and I said, make a statement on Afghanistan and then fucking resign, because that's what she needs to do at this point. She needs to resign. She doesn't need to be in the halls of power anymore, for any reason whatsoever. She shouldn't be anywhere close to the halls of power. But with that being said, as soon as I put that out there, somebody else there who was enterprising, going through all of the quote tweets, found it and came out and said, those people had a choice, man. They're over there by choice. And if there are rescue planes out there, then that's devastating to the narrative that those people are actually over there by choice, by their own choice, rather than, wanting to get out of there, wanting to get back to the United States. That's devastating to that narrative. So, we'll see what's happening with that. Let's grab one from CNBC. Taliban stops planes with hundreds of evacuees from leaving, but it's unclear why. This is from the Associated Press. At least 4 planes chartered to evacuate several hundred people seeking to escape the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan have been unable to leave the country for days, officials said Sunday, with conflicting accounts emerging about why the flights weren't able to take off as pressure ramps up on the U.S. to help those left behind flee. An Afghan official at the airport in the northern city of Mazar-e-Sharif said that the would-be passengers were Afghanistans, many of whom did not have passports or visas and thus were unable to leave the country. He said they had left the airport while the situation was sorted out. The top Republican in the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Committee, however, said the group included Americans and they were sitting on planes, but the Taliban were not letting them take off, effectively holding them hostage. He did not say where that information came from. It was not immediately possible to reconcile the accounts. And then we go back onto a review of this, which, I'm not surprised to see an NBC network trying to blame the Taliban for this, and I don't know what happened. The Taliban could be doing it themselves. But the reality is they let these people into the country. So I don't know if they're just trying to get more hostages. If they're the actual ones that are behind this entire situation, I don't know if they're trying to get more hostages, if they're trying to get more people in there that they can negotiate with, or if they have another ulterior motive to this. Or conversely, as I mentioned before in the other one, if it is the State Department, if they have a narrative that they have to hold up, if they have something they need to continue to push down on the American people, and nothing will get into the way of that narrative. So, I don't know where this goes. I don't know where this ends. But we will definitely see. Alright, let's grab one here from CBS. U.S. investigates child bride cases among Afghan evacuees, from Margaret Brennan and Bo Erickson. U.S. authorities are now investigating cases of so-called child brides among Afghans who fled Afghanistan in the past few weeks and are now in U.S. custody both inside the U.S. and in facilities abroad. CBS has learned that several Afghan women and girls who were evacuated to facilities in the UAE have told officials that their families forced them into marriage outside of the Kabul airport so they could be eligible for evacuation. A senior State Department official told authorities are taking claims seriously and investigating human trafficking as a federal crime and also illegal in every state. It is not clear how the U.S. would handle the case of Afghan evacuee found guilty of child sex trafficking. The Associated Press was first to publish a story Friday about the U.S. authorities were looking into reports that in the chaos of the evacuation there were older men who were admitted into the U.S. or transit countries with young girls they had claimed as brides and that some of the girls were sexually abused. The AP reported there were cases among the evacuated in Wisconsin and the UAE. Fort McCoy in western Wisconsin is the military base temporarily housing about 8,800 Afghan evacuees, the largest population of Afghan evacuees in the U.S. In the next few days. Its capacity will be expanded to accommodate 13,000, according to two sources familiar with the operations. One person briefed with the operations of Fort McCoy told CBS News on Friday that leadership at the Wisconsin military site and federal authorities are looking into potential cases there. Yeah, this wasn't planned or anything for any reason whatsoever. And I looked at this too, and we looked at last week where Fort McCoy is. So at this point, you have Fort McCoy, 6,600 acres of military base in western Wisconsin, just after the Toma and I-94 and I-90 split. I actually rarely drive by this military base. I thought it was the other one, but that's Camp Douglas. But I rarely drive by this place, but I am familiar with where it is. And, okay, so now you have thousands of evacuees, and now you suddenly have child brides thrown into the mix. And I don't know if these people will be able to go off base to get groceries. I don't know if they'll be out there intermingling with people, but I do know that you have people from another culture, which I think for the most part, western Wisconsin is accepting of from another culture, but you also have people from another culture who are supposedly diddling little kids, surrounded by thousands of Wisconsin good old boys with guns. Was this planned? Did they try to do something like this? Did they try to inflame some of the tensions even further? I don't know. But this seems very, very weird to me, and I don't like a word of it. As far as the trafficking goes, yeah, I can understand where people would come back and do this and come out and say, hey, let's go and do something here to get more people in. I mean, we talk about green card marriages. That's been a trope in U.S. culture since the 70s, green card marriages. You talk about people running across the border to have a baby on U.S. soil. So the baby is an anchor baby. I don't know how often that actually goes, but that's something also we've been talking about since the 90s. You have all these other things, so why wouldn't they force somebody into a marriage so that they're eligible to be evacuated? People, if they're in a desperate situation, will do desperate things. I don't like it, but it's something that could happen. But really, honestly, now I have concerns. Now I have concerns about the efficacy of all of this and where it goes from here. And we'll continue to watch this as it develops. Let's grab one from CNN here. Let's watch a little bit of this from CNN first. A little bit of the video that goes with this. But it looks like Biden is going to order a review and potential release of classified documents related to September 11th. Let's hear what they have to say, and then let's go into what the rest of the article is.
More than 1,600 people who lost family members on 9/11 say they don't want President Biden to visit Ground Zero on the upcoming 20th anniversary. It'll be his first as Commander-in-Chief.
In a few short days, we will have administration officials, President Biden and others, mark the most devastating attack on American soil. And they will stand up and they will utter words, never forget. I'm here to tell you now, those words ring shallow to all the family members because they stand up and utter words, never forget. But the administration, behind a cloak of secrecy, continues to stab us in the back.
For years and through multiple administrations, the victims' families have been pushing for the government to release classified documents they believe implicate Saudi officials in the attack. Brett Eagleson's father, Bruce, died at the World Trade Center, and he joins me now. Brett, what is it you want to see and why?
We want to see President Biden stand with us and stand up for American citizens. It's been too long. It's been 20 years, and the 9/11 families deserve justice and closure. Matter of fact, all Americans deserve to know the truth behind what the Saudi Arabian government's role was in
Well, apparently they've taken away my play button, so I can't go back and pause the rest of this. So we're not going to sit and watch the other 6 minutes of this. But yeah, we've got some stuff to talk about with this. Let's see what the article has to say. This is from Donald Judd and Rachel Genfaza. President Biden on Friday signed an executive order directing the Department of Justice and other federal agencies to conduct a declassification review of documents related to the FBI's investigation of the September 11, 2001 terror attacks. The review could result in the release of new documents should the agencies find some that can be declassified. The executive order requires that the AG release declassified documents publicly over the next 6 months. Biden wrote in a statement, My heart continues to be with the 9/11 families who are suffering, man, come on! And my administration will continue to engage respectfully with members of this community. I welcome their voices and insight as we chart a way forward. The move comes about a month after more than 1,600 people were affected by the September 11th attacks, releasing a letter calling on Biden to refrain from going to Ground Zero in New York City to mark the anniversary of the event unless he releases additional documents and information the government has previously blocked. Not long after that letter, the Department of Justice announced that it would review what previously withheld information or documents related to the September 11, 2001 attacks it can disclose to the public. So this is a publicity stunt, but I'm here for it. I'm going to tell you this right now. Release the documents. Declassify everything. Just don't stop at September 11th. Declassify everything you possibly can. Get it all out there because there is way too much stuff that we don't know about our government, and it affects the way that they hold dominion over your lives. And yes, they absolutely hold dominion over your lives. If you don't know that they hold dominion over your lives, they hold way too much dominion. And if we declassified some documents, we could see why they think they can get away with it and possibly start to stop them from holding dominion over your lives. As far as the September 11th thing goes, this is very clearly a publicity stunt so that Biden can go down to Ground Zero and say, come on, man, before Jill comes off and rushes him away from people before he starts asking questions. Hey, I came back to New York in the 80s. Didn't there used to be something here? Why ain't it here, man? Come on, man. Oh boy, I remember the good old days with Corn Pop in Delaware. And I had hairy legs at the time. And we looked up and we saw the skyline. And it was a beautiful thing, man. Come on. And I'm sure that, if the families are blocking Biden from going to Ground Zero, that's going to be a massive publicity hit. Which is probably part of the reason the press pools looked at this and said, okay, no, we need to do something. Or not the press pool, but the press department, the press secretary, and the assistant press secretary. Wow. Why couldn't my mind think of that title? I'm sure the press secretary, Jen Psaki, and the assistant press secretary pushed for this because it's going to be an optics fail if Biden doesn't get to go to Ground Zero. It's going to be a massive optics fail for this, especially on such a significant anniversary. 20 years this year. But as far as the documents go, yeah, go ahead, get them out there, declassify them. Let's see if jet fuel can really melt steel beams. Or if it really was pressure that came off of this kind of thing. Because if you hit a building that tall with that much force, you crack and you destroy steel structure. Alright, anyway, that's what we see coming up off of that. Let's grab one from Ars Technica. Shifting gears again, moving off Afghanistan and the Biden admin, and going on to the Texas abortion case. Starting with their website, GoDaddy boots Texas abortion whistleblower site for violating privacy policy. From John Brodkin. Yeah, see, the thing is, I'm sure that wasn't the reason that they did this. I'm sure this wasn't the reason for that. I'm sure the reason is they found something they didn't want to be associated with, and they found any excuse they could to get him off of there. Let's see what ours has to say here. This is from John Brodkin. The Texas Right to Life group will have to find a new hosting provider for its website that encourages people to report violations of the state's restrictive new anti-abortion law. GoDaddy took action after Gizmodo reported that Texas Right to Life's new website, ProLifeWhistleblower.com, seems to violate a GoDaddy rule that says website operators may not collect or harvest, or permit anyone else to collect or harvest any user content or any non-public or personally identifiable information about any another user or any other person or entity without express prior written consent. Yeah, I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure that there are plenty of websites out there who have made stories or hate websites against people like Crowder, against President Trump, against people like that, oh, no, we don't find anything wrong with the terms of service. No, everything's okay here. Oh, yeah, if you want to share where in Mar-a-Lago you found Donald Trump, where he's staying in there, no, that's fine. You can do that right on. Here, let us pay your fees to let you host on GoDaddy.com. I'm sure there's a lot of that conversation going on there. All right, let's keep going. GoDaddy's terms of service also say that customers cannot use the web hosting platform in a way that violates the privacy or publicity rights of another user or any other person or entity that or breaches any duty of confidentiality that you owe to another user or any other person or entity. GoDaddy says that the website has less than 24 hours to go find a hosting provider. Last night, we informed ProLifeWhistleblower.com they violated GoDaddy's terms of service and have 24 hours to move to a different provider. GoDaddy told ours in a statement. GoDaddy previously confirmed the action to the New York Times, a former newspaper, and Newsweek. GoDaddy told ours that the site violated multiple provisions, including but not limited to Section 5.2 of our Terms of Service. That section is one that prohibits sites from using GoDaddy to collect or harvest non-public or personally identifiable information without people's prior consent. So this is, and when I first read this, actually Twitter was trying to convince their people that this was a Texas state-run website to go and collect bounties for. That's not what this is for. This was a private organization who was taking advantage of what's going on in Texas to try and go out and say, see, we're more pro-life than everybody else. We're going to tell you where you can find these people and go and sue them and go try to get that lawsuit out there. Which, the way that I understand the Texas law, only the aggrieved party, which in the case of the abortion would probably be the father of the aborted child, has the ability to do this. But I'm sure that there was also another aspect out there. Hey, we put this information up on this here website there, and you best be paying us half of what you got from your lawsuit. Otherwise, we're going to come out, we're going to dox you out here too, eh? You filed that lawsuit because of the information we put up, and you better pay us. I'm sure it's a fucking grift. But this is a private organization. This wasn't the Texas state government, like Twitter was trying to convince you that it was. And honestly, I don't believe in this. I don't like this. I don't care for what they're trying to do with this. You shouldn't be putting somebody else's information out there, no matter what. That is like the one rule, the one thing that'll get you banned out of either my Discord or my live chat. You can get away with pretty much anything else that you want if you're in the live chat, as long as you don't dox anybody. And yeah, that's about it. Otherwise, it's just a timeout and you get 10 minutes to think about what you've done. But if you start doxing people, you are gone and you're not welcome back. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. You are not welcome back. And that's what this website was doing. So really, honestly, GoDaddy had, as much as I hate to say it, because I know that, I've been talking with the person who's going to be helping me with the website about hosting and how to host, because I've never bought a domain before. But I'm sure that like GoDaddy would throw me off of their site as soon as they caught wind that I host Stephen Ignoramus. So they're willing to go up and do stuff for political purposes and solely political purposes. We don't like you, so don't use our website. I don't care how much money you pay us. We don't like you, so don't use our hosting service. And I'm sure there's plenty of that, but Realistically, when you look back at something like this was probably the right call, because you shouldn't be doxing people. You shouldn't there's no way to do it. But it does look like it's possible that these people might have found a new host. Let's read from Fox Business. Pro-life tech leaders court Texas right to life after GoDaddy drops domain hosting for whistleblower site, from Michael Ruiz. Texas Right to Life was working with pro-life business leaders to transfer a whistleblower site to a new host Saturday, a day after GoDaddy shut it down amid alleged violations of its policy. The web hosting giant cut services for the whistleblower site, not Texas Right to Life's main domain, on Friday, alleging that it violated a policy on gathering information without the subject's consent. Texas Right to Life set up ProLifeWhistleblower.com to help users report violations of Texas's new heartbeat law, which took effect Wednesday and allows anyone to sue if abortion is conducted after cardiac activity can be detected. GoDaddy's decision came after the website faced intense criticism from pro-choice activists, but the new law has saved about 150 lives a day, according to Texas Right to Life's Vice President, Elizabeth Graham. Yeah, I'm going to need a citation on that one, but regardless. And the pro-life group's lawyers have found multiple instances in which it was actually GoDaddy that violated its own policy, she told Fox Business on Saturday. I'm not surprised by that either. They're looking into it, and at some point they'll tell us if we should take action or if we should just move on and be satisfied with getting out of GoDaddy, she said. The site, ProLifeWhistleblower.com, was accessible briefly Saturday afternoon, but appeared out of service during multiple visits later in the day. Staffers have been the target of vulgar angry emails and phone messages, Graham said, as well as hacking, spamming, and trolling attempts. One caller allegedly told the group's pregnant, newlywed receptionist that she hoped she'd suffered a miscarriage. Yeah, these people are demons. These people are evil. But those attempts at disruption, Graham said, have led Texas Right to Life to double down on the efforts. Abortion not only hurts the child, but it really can have devastating effects on the mother, she said. Graham said the nonprofit's IT director was in touch with more than one alternative hosting company whose leaders support the pro-life movement. She also said she expected to have some pro-life and conservative groups who currently use GoDaddy would migrate elsewhere. Yeah, they shouldn't have started there to begin with. There was no way when I first looked around and said, I want to start a new website. How do I do this? There was no way in hell that GoDaddy was even on my radar. In fact, that was the first question I asked to both my friend Seawall, who was the first person who knew about this project that I have coming up, and the girl who I don't know if she wants to be named or not, who's going to be helping us with the project as it goes, was, I don't even know how to buy a domain. What do I use other than GoDaddy, because they will fucking axe me. If you have any sort of right-leaning, nobody should use GoDaddy. Nobody should use GoDaddy no matter what. But if you have any sort of leaning politically that is not ultra-progressive, all the way out to the left, communism for everybody, take away from the rich, give it out to everybody, and it'll totally work this time, then you should not be using GoDaddy for anything whatsoever, ever. So that's what we see coming back up off of that. But on the other side of this, while it was there, TikTok users and coders flood Texas abortion site with fake tips. From Nicole Pearl Roth. This comes to Yahoo News via the New York Times, a former newspaper. After a Texas law restricting abortion went into effect on Wednesday, the state's largest anti-abortion group publicized a website that invited citizens to inform on the law's violators. The website ProLifeWhistleblower.com, which was set up by the group Texas Right to Life, was designed to help carry out the new law. That's because the law places enforcement not in the hands of the state officials, but with private citizens who are deputized to sue anyone who performs or aids an abortion in violation of the law. Tips about the law's potential offenders quickly flooded the website, which features an online forum, so people can anonymously submit reports of those who are illegally obtaining or facilitating abortions. But some of the tips were a little unexpected. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who is the leading proponent of the abortion law, was a violator. According to some of the tips, the fictional characters from Marvel's Avengers were also seeking abortions. The report said other tips did not point to individuals, but instead contained copies of the entire script to the 2000 animated movie, B-Movie. The reports, which were obviously bogus, were the work of activists on TikTok, programmers and Twitter and Reddit users who said they wanted to ensnarl the site's administrators in fabricated data. Their digital dissent was part of a wave of reaction against the Texas law, which bans most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy and makes the state the most restrictive in the nation. In terms of access to abortion services, President Biden on Thursday said the situation unleashes constitutional chaos against women. So that's where I'm going to stop off of this, because in this next article talks about the fact that they made an iPhone app to go do the same thing. But I want to talk about this for just a second, because once again, I don't agree with this, and I actually very much agree with the attempt to try to curb abortion in Texas. I don't like the fact that the government's involved. I hate that fact, but I like the attempt to at least curb the abortion argument. But I also respect the fact that people who are dissented to this have found a way to dissent without actually having to go in and, get involved with the government and do so. Or without having to resort to violence. But the only question I have about this is, and I'm going to be completely honest, it's whataboutism. It is whataboutism. Because the New York Times, a former newspaper, has praised these people who are making these anonymous tips to this website. They think this is the greatest thing in the world. They think this is the best thing in the world to do. Now, this isn't a government website, and that's part of the difference off of this, but it really shouldn't matter if it's a government website or not. It should actually be more encouraged if it is a government website, because you should be pushing back against your government no matter what. You should always be pushing back against your government. But see, the New York Times will come out and praise these TikTokers and say, "Oh yeah, well they got the website shut down by flooding it out with fake tips." But when it was the COVID Tattletale app, or the website for New York City, and I think there was one in California, when it was the Tattletale app where you could go and snap the picture of somebody who was violating the lockdown orders and send it out to the government, to de Blasio or Newsom or anybody else like that, this was the work of evil far-right extremists. Evil, horrible far-right extremists. If somebody happened to snap a picture of their fucking junk and send it out to these websites, to the police force, to anything else like that, to take a picture of their butt, to take a picture of a houseplant, a fern. So when they're shutting down the Texas abortion or pro-life whistleblower website, they're great patriots. They're honest. They're doing the Lord's work to do. Well, no, they don't believe in the Lord, so they're not doing the Lord's work. But they're great, wonderful, honest, patriotic people who are doing what they're supposed to do for this. And I also had to make sure to say this right, because if I said it the wrong way, that'd get kicked off YouTube. But if it's me taking a picture of my fucking penis and sending it to Mayor de Blasio's website to tattletale on all the people, because the number was out there, the text line was out there, those are evil far-right extremists who have nothing but hatred in their heart. They're evil far-right people, and we need to do everything we can to push back against these evil far-right people who are misusing government assets. It's the difference between the two. Alright, a little bit more going on with this. From the USA Today, archived because of ad blocker. TikTok coder creates iPhone shortcut to send Texas abortion whistleblower site fake tips. From Mike Snyder. A recently passed Texas law banning women from having an abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy is getting some resistance from TikTok. That's not what the law did. Sean Black, an activist who goes by Black Madness 21 on TikTok, created a technological way to oppose enforcement of the law, which relies on private citizens to sue anyone who helps a woman get an abortion after a fetal heartbeat is detected. Initially, he wrote that some computer code to constantly input false data into the Texas Right to Life organization's pro-life whistleblower website, created to take anonymous tips about potential lawbreakers. The script uploaded about 300 entries before the site blocked his IP address, Black says on the video on TikTok. But then I started thinking, what if I made it a bit easier for everyone, he said in the video. So he created an iOS shortcut for users of Apple devices can download it that automatically fills in the site's form, picks a random Texas city, county, and zip code, and fills in and submits the form, he said. Because it uses realistic information, it makes it harder for them to parse through the data, Black said in the video. News of Black's invention was welcomed by some on Twitter. Gotta love the kids, one person tweeted. And of course, Brooklyn Dad Defiant had to go back and tweet that out. The website that Texas is using for people to snitch on women seeking abortions is prolifewhistleblower.com. You can help crash the website by entering bullshit info. Retweet to make good trouble. LDRCHGO says, I read TikTokers have already flooded the phone lines and voicemails. Gotta love the kids. So yes, and of course, these people are being praised, even by Brooklyn Dad Defiant. But I'm willing to bet that if I went back last year, and I'm not going to go back and do this because this guy gets paid to tweet way too fucking much. But I'm sure that I have some friend out there with weaponized autism that'll go back out and do this for me. That can go through Brooklyn Dad Defiant's Twitter line and tell us the world of how far-right extremists are sending pictures of assholes to de Blasio on an important government phone line that we use to snitch on our neighbors and tell the government that our neighbors are having COVID parties. I bet you he's got a tweet in there for that because it was probably profitable for the DNC, so the DNC probably paid him $50,000 for that tweet. It's a great parallel off of this too. Thank you, Quest, by the way. It's a great parallel off the two things. All right, that's what we have coming off of that. Let's go to Tech Raptor. So this one is a little bit interesting off of this because it really tells you that the people who are in charge of companies don't have a lot of their own free will. Tech Raptor says Tripwire president starts controversy by supporting Texas abortion law. This is from Jackson Wary. John Gibson, president of Tripwire Interactive, sparked a social media firestorm after his comments seemingly in support of a recently passed abortion law in the state of Texas. The Texas abortion law, formerly known as Senate Bill 8, took effect on September 1st. Gibson made the comments yesterday afternoon in a tweet from his personal Twitter saying, well, we'll read the tweet in a second. Though it initially flew under the radar, quickly growing traction as Jason Schreier shared the tweet and brought attention to Gibson's comments. At the time of writing, the tweet had attracted over 1,000 quote tweets, with many quote tweets stating their own extensive threads. Gibson has not tweeted since voicing his support for the Senate Bill 8, though he's currently attending a PAX West, a large gaming convention hosted in Seattle. Numerous members of the gaming industry have spoken out in condemnation of Gibson's remarks. Among them are a narrative designer at Ubisoft, a former Epic Games developer, and a senior producer of Perfect Dark, who opined that Gibson didn't understand women's healthcare or the Supreme Court. Alright, let's see what the tweet is. The tweet says, proud of hashtag US Supreme Court, affirming Texas law banning abortion for babies with a heartbeat. As an entertainer, I don't get political often, yet with so many vocal peers on the other side of the issue, I felt it was important to go on the record as a pro-life game developer. And just like with Eric Clapton, now all these people are trying to retroactively come out and say that they always hated everything that Tripwire put out. Let's see. Oh, it's gone. There was a tweet off of there that said, oh, it doesn't matter because all your games suck anyway. Which I'm sure, and I looked up and there weren't any real big names to this, but Tripwire is also licensed exclusively to Unreal Tournament 4. Which a lot of people seem to be as the pinnacle of fighting games. I don't know if it is or not. I'm not a fighting game fan, but it was one of the pinnacles of fighting games. So, you know, you can retcon and say that all your games suck, but I'm sure that the person who tweeted that has no idea what games were actually made by Tripwire. But yeah, you got your usual ones here. Jennifer Astor Uncle says, it must really make the women who work at Tripwire comfortable to know their boss sees them as a walking baby incubator. Well, the women could just not have sex or use some sort of protection while doing so. Alright, but that's what they have going on for that. Let's talk about Rogan for a second. Joe Rogan loses Spotify deal and millions due to ivermectin, which I'm probably going to get kicked off YouTube because I said the I word. But let's see what they had to say. Let's see how long we can stay on here before I get kicked off. This is a no author given. Comedian and podcaster Joe Rogan lost his $100 million Spotify deal due to the stars admitting that he took the animal dewormer drug ivermectin. Mr. Rogan went on to Instagram and told his millions of followers he contracted COVID and told them he took the drug the FDA warned against. It only took Spotify, the world's largest streaming service for music and podcasts, a few days to cancel his contract. Like the highly paid performers for Spotify, Joe Rogan has a morality clause in the agreement. Spotify CEO Andrew Kennard said, "It's clear he broke it when he engaged in such irresponsible and dangerous behavior. It's one thing to ignore the science and take a drug for livestock. It's another to publicly endorse it." Rogan's lawyers are planning to contest the matter in court. They're insisting that the client didn't break any agreement because Rogan is in fact an idiot of legendary proportions. While his comedy is quite entertaining, it's clear that the comedian has only a tentative grasp on the scientific method. Mr. Rogan agrees. I'm a fucking moron, man. I'm a cage-fighting commentator. I'm not a respected source of information, even for me. But I at least try to be honest about what I'm saying, he said on air. But we have to go back and walk this one back here because it is not true. But a lot of people were passing it around over the weekend as if it was true. From Sportskeeda. Did Joe Rogan lose his Spotify deal? From Bhavesh Purohit. Joe Rogan hasn't lost his $100 million Spotify deal. The renowned UFC commentator and stand-up comedian is still under contract with the Swedish streaming giant. A satirical website called Pathos published the article, wherein they claimed that Rogan had lost his Spotify deal. In the article, one Andrew Kennard, who was disguised as the Spotify CEO, slammed Rogan for using ivermectin to treat COVID-19. Without realizing that the article in question was a prank, internet users assumed Rogan had indeed lost the Spotify deal. So, yeah, he hasn't lost anything. They haven't done that back yet. They haven't gone out and said, "Oh, no, we are Spotify and you can't transmit on us anymore. Okay, thank you. Have a good day. You are done." So that's what that. And I mean, we could sit down and talk about the I word too, but really honestly, I'm on YouTube for the rest of this. I would have to turn YouTube off in order to sit down and talk about the I word, because otherwise they will shut you down because, you know, I bring facts about the I word, not the narrative that they're out there to go back and try to push down your throat. But there again, there will be no YouTube if I do that. So we'll hold off on that for now. All right, from The Australian. How reality TV wannabe became Melbourne's anti-vax leader arrested by police. This is from Jack Painter. It seems like Monica Smith always wanted to be famous. In 2017, the 33-year-old from Pakenham in Melbourne's outer southeast suburbs auditioned for Survivor after a 10-year career in sales, designing and selling houses. She got through the second round of casting but failed to make it onto the show. In her audition video, which was posted to YouTube, the reality TV wannabe said she didn't hate being the center of attention. On Tuesday this week, she made headlines across the country, not just in the way she may have planned back then, when she was arrested in Brighton and later charged with 2 counts of incitement in relation to protests held in Melbourne on August 11th and August 21st during Victoria's 6th lockdown. One of the events was described by Victoria Police Chief Commissioner Shane Patton as one of the most violent demonstrations in 20 years and resulted in 9 police officers being hospitalized. Yeah? How many of your people did you kill? Ms. Smith launched the Reignite Democracy Australia movement last year against what she called the Victorian government's catastrophic handling of the COVID pandemic. Police told Melbourne Magistrates Court on Wednesday, Reignite Democracy Australia, and as such accused, is one of the largest encouragers of the protests being held in breach of the lockdown restrictions. Ms. Smith was offered bail when she appeared in court on Wednesday, but refused to sign a document to secure her release in protest of the strict conditions she would be placed under. This means she remains in custody. Her parents claim she's a political prisoner in a video posted to the Reignite Democracy Australia platforms. In another message on Friday, Ms. Smith said she would rather be in prison with no rights than willingly sign them away. So, we see more of this here, and I'm glad to see some of Australia pushing back, because they are getting very, 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 very tyrannical to a point that I'm getting a little bit uncomfortable even having to read about it. So good. Like I say, when the government pushes on you, you push back. Push back in whichever way you can. Alright. Here's one. Another TikTok for you guys. Businesses in New York City are standing together against vaccine mandates. Please, 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 please retweet the hell out of this. His Discord link will be in the comments. Together we stand, divided we fall. And that is the Discord link as well. And I'll go ahead and put a retweet on this real quick so you guys can go find it from my page. But this is the TikTok video because, yeah, they're banding together. Let's see what this let's see what they have to say, shall we?
My mother told me someday I will buy galley with good doors.
So, we're gonna start a big protest or something. I don't care, man.
No more boy guys steer, steady course to the haven. Human. My mother told me someday I will buy galley with good doors. Sail to western shores. Stand up on the ground. Yes, sir. Noble boy guys steer, steady course to the haven. Human.
You know, I probably should have muted that. Just because I'm pretty sure that was probably going to get me a ding or a strike or something on YouTube, but, you know, whatever. I said the I word. So I'm sure that they're going to shut this down anyway.
My mother told.
As far as this goes, I mean, there are a couple things that go with this, and business leaders are going to look at this and they're going to realize the harsh reality of the way that all this works, the way that money works, the way that their businesses work. Business leaders are in the market of making money. That's what they do. And there are people, and there is a large amount of people, especially in the communities that are not white, that have no desire to go off and get this thing because their groups have been experimented on before. I don't blame them for not wanting to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't denounce anybody who does want to do it, but I don't want to go and get this thing. I have no desire to go off and get this thing. And nothing whatsoever. None. No desire at all. And these business leaders looking at it, I'm sure that a large number of these business leaders are vaccinated themselves. But they're looking at it from a pragmatic purpose. You cannot, and I mean, this is where people, we want to go back to slavery. We want to take women out of the workforce. It goes back. We'll talk about the Ferengi later on too, because we'll be coming up on that at the end of the program. But if half of your population can't conduct commerce because of a vaccine passport, or because, in the Ferengi culture, because they're women, or, in the U.S. culture, because 10% of your population is enslaved and non-white, if half of your population cannot conduct commerce, you are leaving money on the table. You are absolutely leaving money on the table. Money that you could be earning, money that you could be using. And these New York businesses understand that. If only half of New York can go into their stores, that's half of New York's money that they can't come back and take. They know what they're doing. They're not dumb. As much as people come out and try to say that they're dumb and they're making a stupid spreader. It's a stupid spreader event. Oh my God. No, they're not dumb. They know what it is to do. What is it? 60% of New York is vaccinated? 40% of your city can't conduct commerce. And guess where they're all going to go? These businesses that are banding together. They're not going to go to the big businesses that say, "Your papers, please. Just give me your papers. Do you have the unvaccinated? Are they in the attic?" They're not going to go to those businesses. They'll go to the ones that are banding together to do this. And we'll see what happens when the mayor of New York looks at this and says, "Okay, we got to shut these people down. They're having way too much free thought." All right, from Fox 2 Now, another dissent. Missouri Cafe turns into private club to avoid mask mandate. From Monica Castro and Zoe Jones. A Missouri cafe that was deemed an imminent health hazard is turning into a private club to circumvent COVID-19 rules. The county health department ordered Ray's Cafe to shut down immediately Friday after receiving several complaints that employees were not complying with the county's mask mandate. The county requires everyone to wear a mask indoors regardless of vaccination status. But the cafe's owner came up with a plan to stay open. She put up a sign in the cafe's door saying the business was now open as a private club. There's a dress code too, no masks allowed. Private clubs aren't affected by the county's indoor mask mandate. As a private club, members will have to pay $1 each time to get in. A sign on the door also warns members that they assume any and all risks of disease transmission. Owner Amanda Wolitz said that she doesn't feel her employees have done anything wrong because they have medical reasons to not wear masks, making them exempt from the county's policy. Wolitz said she plans to keep her kitchen open as long as I can, as long as they let me. The Jackson County Health Department said that it issued Ray's Cafe a warning, 2 tickets, and a notice that failing to comply with a mask mandate would lead to its business being revoked. Despite our multiple attempts to work with this business to comply, the owner knowingly and willingly continued to violate health order, County Administrator Tony Schulte said in a statement. It is clear by the number of complaints that we receive that the people in our community are concerned about the spread of the virus and are holding others accountable to prevent further pain, sickness, and death in our community. Our order is in place to protect public health. We are grateful for those businesses who are doing their part to help us get through this pandemic, and will continue to act accordingly for those who are not. The cafe's defiance of the mask mandate was getting mixed reviews from members of the community. If I was in a restaurant and I was eating the food, I would kind of want the people in the restaurant wearing a mask while being served, Michael Herrick said. Others were curious how to become members and to support the business. So, a little bit of pushback in both directions off this, obviously. I think this business was in the right. I do. I think that they made the correct move for the situation they were in. They made the correct move. Now, with that being said, once again, I've always said that if you feel that wearing a mask, and I think it's stupid if you wear a mask. I think it's really stupid if you wear double masks. But if you feel that is the best way to keep yourself safe, and I had somebody comment on one of the Gen Gap charity stream that I picked up. I had one person comment on that because this was right at the beginning of the coof, and Britt was wearing a mask because she has 2 immune-compromised children. She was wearing a mask in her house while she was on, and somebody came out and said, "Well, why the hell is she wearing a mask? Why the fuck would you want to do something like that?" Well, at the time, she thought that that was the best way to keep her children safe and alive. So she did what it took. We've since learned about this, and she thinks that it's a bunch of bullshit now, but at the time, she thought this was the best way to keep everybody safe and healthy. She thought this was the best way to do this. So, she did it. You always have your own personal level of risk assessment. And you should be able to make the decisions for yourself. And I don't like the fact that there's a dress code for the club, for the servers, some of whom probably think that this is the best way for them to keep themselves safe, is to wear a mask. But this is still the right decision to do no matter what, because you find a way around the law and you continue to do your business. That's how speakeasies came up. That's how prohibition ended. And then jury nullification on top of this. Take these orders to court. Take these fines and these penalties to court. Tell them that if they want to do something to criminally charge the owner, take it to court and let the jury get nullified. Jury nullification is a thing. That's how we end the drug war. That's how we end the mask war. That's how we ended the Prohibition war. All right, let's keep going. You aren't legally allowed to know which variant gave you COVID-19 in the U.S., even if it's Delta, from Arya Bendix. Sam Reeder, a musician from San Francisco, got a call from the California Department of Public Health in June. Though fully vaccinated, Reeder had recently tested positive for the pinko fucking pox after teaching music at a summer camp. The health department asked him to take a second test at a local Kaiser Permanente. Reeder assumed it was because authorities wanted to find out whether he had Delta infection or not. He too was curious, but when he got the test results back, he was surprised to learn that doctors couldn't give him any information about his variant. When I got the follow-up from Kaiser, they said it's positive, but they didn't have any of the sequencing information, Reeder told Insider. That felt odd to me, he said. Several legal barriers prevented Reeder and his doctors, as well as nearly all Americans who have tested positive for the coronavirus, from knowing which variant was to blame. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which oversees the regulatory process for U.S. labs, requires genome sequencing tests to be federally approved before their results can be disclosed to doctors or patients. These are the tests that pick on variants, but right now, there's little incentive for the labs to do the work to validate those tests. I don't think there's a lot of motivation, quite honestly, to get that done, Kelly Robleski, Director of Infectious Diseases and the Association of Public Health Laboratories, told Insider. Of course they don't want you to know which variant you got. Now, they can come back out and cook the books, but if the test is really as inaccurate as this article just said, then we can't come out here and trust the publications that told us over the summer that, we had this many cases in this hospital and 95% of them were Delta variant. That pushes all that entire thing completely bullshit out the window. Which it was bullshit anyway. It really is. It's the flu. You don't have to know which variant of the flu that you got. Yes, there's statistics involved, but if the test is really so inconclusive that they can't tell you, then they can't go out and tell the news media either. Alright, we're flying through the rest of this here. This one came to me out of the Discord from the Chill Anarchist, so let's go over this one. From WRAL.com, it's always watching. Warren County Town to use 24-hour cameras, controversial facial recognition. From Keenan Willard, WRAL East North Carolina reporter. A small town in Warren County will launch a new police system that implements facial recognition and vehicle scanners. The police chief behind the effort is looking out to put Norlina in the cutting edge of digital policing. The camera never takes a lunch break. The camera never has to use the restroom. The camera never has to get any sleep, Norlina police chief Keyshawn May said, so it's always watching. Well, that is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's a violation of the Fifth Amendment. I love how Texas is putting an abortion law into place and screaming about the right to privacy that was enshrined in Roe versus Wade. And now we have a small town in North Carolina that's trying to do the opposite of this. Now, yes, you have informed consent if you go into a store and you see the camera out there to know that you're on camera. And a lot of stores will put out a sign out front that says, "Smile, you're on camera." But there is the assumption that when you go into there that you'll be on camera for a private company. But just to have the state do it, to have the state come out here and make the recordings constantly on all this stuff and then have the facial recognition and the license plate readers on it all, no. I don't even like the fact that police cars have the license plate readers in them. I think you should have to take the number down and call it in just like you used to because they're auto scan. They automatically scan the license plate. If they see a license plate on the car, they automatically scan it. There's no look for this. They automatically do the scan. It happens instantly, and then it comes back and says, "Oh, well, this person has a suspended license," or the person who's registered to this vehicle has a suspended license. Stop this person now. The license is revoked. The license plate tags are suspended for whatever reason. They're expired. They're this. They're that. They're the next thing. And they do it instantly. So no, we shouldn't be doing something like this. We shouldn't be. This is a blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is an unlawful search and seizure. The town of Norlena only has 1,200 full-time residents. Mays hopes the project will put the town on the map. Mays says that one room at the police station, officers are able to see the entire town at one time. And you don't see a problem with this? Community leaders and activists have concerns over this new system. I fucking bet they do. Which they say could lead to racial profiling. And it's got to be about race. Because, of course, that's the first thing they have to do is make it about race. This will clearly not only be an invasion of privacy for the citizens of the town, but all those who may pass through the town as well, says Kerwin Pittman, spokesperson with the group Emancipate North Carolina. One must ask, is this merely an attempt to monitor and essentially track the citizens of this town? He asked. So, and that also brings up a very important point. Now, Norlena's cameras will use facial recognition to create a database of everyone who enters the town. The new technology has been banned for police use in several major cities, including Boston, Oakland, Portland, and San Francisco. Experts say this is because facial recognition software is the least accurate and the most invasive. So, if you are ever in North Carolina, stay out of Norlena, because they feel that this is important to them and should be important to you. Let's Carolina. I'll show you where it is on the map so you can make sure that you never ever go anywhere close to it either. Alright, so there it is. It looks like it sits right on Route 1 and 401. Let's find what major cities we're close to here. But it's right on Route 1, so that does add a whole degree of difficulty to all these things, because that is one of the most traveled U.S. routes that's a non-interstate in the country. Goes all the way up and down the East Coast. I used to work right on Route 1, actually, when I lived in Mass. So it's right after you get into... It's right after you get into the state line, coming down Route 1 and 401. It's over by Macon, Vaughan, Littleton, down by Henderson and South End, Henderson and Oxford. So with that, you see where this is. Don't go there. Do not go there. Don't bring your vehicle into that town. Don't buy anything from that town. Don't do anything in Norlena. Stay away from there. Take 95 instead. You'll be happier for it. All right, from Fox News, Larry Elder says he would replace Dianne Feinstein with a Republican if he wins California's recall election, which is what they are afraid of. It has nothing to do with, he might overturn abortion. He might, states' rights might be at risk. He might do this. He might overturn unions or this or that, the next thing, or gay marriage no. He has no mandate to do any of that because he's facing a legislature that's supermajority against him. Most everything will be stalled in California. As much as they're trying to tell you that this is all in danger because reproductive rights and gay marriage and all this other stuff, it's all in peril if Larry Elder wins and Gavin Newsom goes away. No. Legislation officially stops essentially in California if Larry Elder wins, with the exception of the replacement of Dianne Feinstein, who is probably not long for this world, and some people say is worse off than Joe Biden. This is what they are terrified of. And I understand why, because then, it throws the Senate balance off of there. And hey, Californians who are 40% non-Democrat might have representation in the Senate. All right, let's see what they have to say here. Larry Elder, gubernatorial candidate in California's Gavin Newsom recall election, said he would replace U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat, with a Republican if Elder becomes governor and Feinstein were to step down during his term. God forbid Governor Elder should replace Dianne Feinstein, who nobody's seen in weeks, Elder told Mark Levin on his radio show on Friday. I'm told she has a worse mental condition than even Joe Biden. They're afraid I would replace her with a Republican, which I most certainly would do, and that would be an earthquake in Washington, D.C. Feinstein, now 88, has served in the Senate since the early 90s and says she has no plans to step down, despite some Democrats hoping she would. A New Yorker piece that came out last year reported that House Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer and others had been concerned about her memory and ability to focus, especially during the Justice Amy Coney Barrett confirmation hearings. Feinstein balked at all the criticism. If Elder were to become governor and Feinstein were to retire, Republicans would be able to retake control of the Senate, currently split 50-48, with 2 independents caucusing with Democrats to even the divide. Vice President Kamala Harris, as president of the Senate, breaks the ties. So, and yeah, this is what Democrats are terrified of. Absolutely 100% terrified of. It has nothing to do with anything else that Elder would do. But now, keep in mind that they're trying to put out the propaganda that they do this with any Republican. If you elect this Republican, abortion will end, and gays will be forced out of society, and transgenderism will end, and we'll go into a depression, and financial safety nets will be gone, and welfare will be gone, and they'll try to get rid of black people, and all this other stuff that they'll try to say off of this. And once again, Larry Elder has no mandate to do any of this. The California legislature, which is supermajority Democrat, will send him a law. He'll put it in his pocket, and he will veto it over and over again. And he has no legislature to make any of this. He can make executive actions, but for the most part, the legislature will challenge them, taking to the Supreme Court, where they'll get overturned. All he has is the appointment of Feinstein. That's the only thing that he has if he's the governor. Literally nothing else. Literally nothing else that he can do. But with that in mind, Rachel Nix, who I had not had on Ed's World or the Red Net Show as a guest co-host, and I think that's a crime. Because I think Rachel is awesome, and I need to actually get that taken care of. But Rachel tweets out, "If I'm Elder, I don't say this. I distance myself from the idea entirely. The recall has bipartisan support, but a Republican senator absolutely does not." And there it is. A Republican senator does not have bipartisan support, but the recall does. There were enough Democrats who were pushed out of their businesses, who are pissed. As much as they're trying to tell you this is a Republican recall, they are pissed over the fact that a lot of them lost their livelihoods. So, that's what we have. All right, from CNN. Former district attorney indicted in connection to Ahmaud Arbery investigation. From Martin Savage and Angela Barajas. A former DA in Georgia has been charged after allegedly interfering with the arrest of a man involved in the 2020 shooting death of 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery. Former Brunswick DA Jackie Johnson has been indicted on charges of violating her oath as a public officer and obstructing a police officer. Both charges are in connection to Johnson's alleged actions during the investigation of the fatal shooting of Arbery while he was jogging through a Glynn County subdivision on February 23, 2020, according to the indictment. Gregory McMichael and his son Travis and neighbor William Bryan were charged with murder in connection with Arbery's death. Bryan will probably get off, and so will Gregory, but Travis is going up the river, most likely. The three pleaded not guilty. During a virtual press conference on Friday, Wanda Cooper Jones, Arbery's mother, said that Johnson should serve time in jail. She didn't pull the trigger, but she is just as much to hold accountable as the three guys who actually did this to Ahmaud, Cooper Jones said. Johnson, on the day of the shooting, prevented 2 Glynn County police officers from exercising their duties by directing that Travis McMichael should not be placed under arrest contrary to the laws of said state. The good order and dignity thereof, the indictment said. Johnson is also accused of violating her DA oath by showing favor and affection to McMichael during the investigation, according to the indictment. Yes, And I think this is the absolute right decision off of this as well, because it does look like she has violated some of what she's done and violated the law to do so. Now, we can sit and debate forever over the Arbery case, because I don't think he was jogging because he was wearing work boots. He was wearing his Timbs. So I don't think he was jogging. But that doesn't mean that some vigilantes should go out there and murder him over it. Especially when it wasn't their property that was being aggrieved. And it wasn't their property that was being aggrieved. That's why I have so much problem with that. Don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. But don't step in when that person is taking other people's stuff. Either use the law because it's still in place. Use the government because it's still in place. Which I think we should be scaling down the government. At which point. But use the government, what little bit of government you want to use. Or let the property owner deal with it on his own. You don't need to be the in-between off of this. And this was probably the right decision off of this. And I think a lot of Twitter saw this, and that's why we saw the Arbery case go away. And I said this during St. George, during the trial of Chauvin. We started to see a lot of this, like Rayshard Brooks. Like Ahmaud Arbery. Like Breonna Taylor. Where those names just kind of did... Well, Breonna Taylor didn't come out until after the St. George riot, even though it happened 2 months... Well, it was more than that, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 2 months before. Even though the shooting of Breonna Taylor happened 2 months before George Floyd overdosed, even though that happened 2 months before, we didn't hear about it until a month after the Floyd overdose. St. George, hallowed be his name. We didn't hear a word about Breonna Taylor until after that. But it was, I mean, you look at some of these, like with the Arbery case. There was a large amount of corruption in that police department. The McMichaels shouldn't have been doing what they did. And a lot of even white people agreed with that. So this wasn't the racially dividing force that most people try to make it out to be. This is supposed to be the thing that proves to you that all white people are white supremacists. That's what this is supposed to be. And most white people looked off and said, no, these people shouldn't have been doing that. This is a murder. At least a manslaughter, but this is a murder. Put these people on the stand. Put them on trial. Arrest them. Rayshard Brooks. Most people on the other side looked at this and said, man, Rayshard shouldn't have been doing what he did. And he did hold a gun to the police officer on camera. They couldn't get the division off of this, and that was what they were trying to do, was get the division off of it. And they got a Christmas present when it came to St. George, because there was enough evidence to this to look at this and say that no, Chauvin was probably in the right, but they could still whip up their base into a frenzy and say that no, Chauvin is an absolute cold-blooded murderer who buttoned up his shirt this morning and said that he was going to go out and kill George Floyd. They were able to put that division up into the world and manipulate the story to the point that we had the division, just like they tried to do with these ones. And even the New York City Birdwatcher one, that was another one where most people said that chick was in the wrong and that dude was in the right. Whereas they tried to present it around the country as something that will be dividing, and this is why white people are white supremacists. They had all these other cases out there that, I mean, most people agreed on. And they don't want the agreement. They want the division. They want the fight. They want the people out to the streets. All right, just a couple more, then we will do the Ferengi rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. Mayor Pete and Chasen in a hospital bed, which I don't understand why they're in a hospital bed. I don't. Casey says, why on earth would you share this? You claim people are hateful. We're invalidating your experience. You didn't experience birth. Instead of staging a photo, you'll never experience. You're not welcome. Why not welcome them into their actual home? This is weird as fuck. Some shit needs to be privated. So, yes, that's Mayor Pete and his husband holding the babies in a hospital bed, which, once again, I don't understand. It's not like these babies went through Chasen's wiener hole. He didn't carry them. Why the hospital bed? From Reuters, U.S. Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, husband posts photos of children. From Reuters. U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg posted a picture of himself with his husband, Jason, and their 2 babies on Saturday after saying last month that the couple had become parents. Buttigieg had earlier this year become the first openly gay U.S. Cabinet Secretary. Richard Grenell would like a word with you, please. Following a run for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, Jason and I are beyond thankful for all that kind wishes. Since first sharing the news that we're becoming parents, we're delighted to become Penelope Rose and Joseph August Buttigieg to our family, Buttigieg said on his personal Twitter account. Okay, Mazel Tov, you have a new people in your house. Why is this important? Why do we care? I don't care. Do you care? But this was out there to come out for the photo op and say, yes, no, gay people are adopting children. You're going to fucking like it. And look, we'll do this in the hospital bed just like everybody else. Dude, you were not in the hospital to do this. These kids did not come out of your wiener hole, like I said. So I don't, well, I understand the point of it. There was obviously a point to it, but yeah. This is the world we live in, you guys. It's all stupid. Every single fucking ounce of it at this point is stupid. Why is it so stupid? I have no idea. But it's all stupid. Alright, last one. Then we'll head out of here for the day. China bans effeminate men from being on television. From the Associated Press. China's government banned effeminate men on TV and told broadcasters on Thursday to promote revolutionary culture, broadening a campaign to tighten control over businesses and society that enforce official morality. President Winnie the Pooh has called for national rejuvenation with tighter Communist Party control of business, education, culture, and religion. Companies and the public are under increasing pressure to align with its vision for a more powerful China and a healthier society. The party has reduced children's access to online games and is trying to discourage what it sees as unhealthy attention to celebrities. Broadcasters must resolutely put an end to sissy men and other abnormal aesthetics, the TV regulator said, using an insulting slang term for effeminate men, Niang Pao, or literally girly guns. This reflects official concern that Chinese pop stars, influenced by the sleek, girlish look of some South Korean and Japanese singers and actors, are failing to encourage China's young men to be masculine enough. Broadcasters should avoid promoting vulgar internet celebrities and admiration of wealth and celebrity, the regulator said. Instead, programs should vigorously promote excellent Chinese traditional culture, revolutionary culture, and advanced socialist culture. Xi's government is also tightening control over Chinese internet industries. It has launched an anti-monopoly data, security, and other enforcement actions at companies including games and social media provider Tencent Holdings and e-commerce giant Alibaba Group that the ruling party worries are too big and independent. Rules that took effect Wednesday limit anyone under 18 to 3 hours per week of online games and prohibit play on school days. Game developers were required to submit new titles for government approval before they could be released. Officials have called on them to add nationalistic themes. I mean, kind of based, but kind of shady as well. In this file photo in 2017, Chinese women walked past an advertisement featuring teen idol Lu Han, also known as China's Justin Bieber, in Beijing. And yeah, he does look kind of girly in that, I'm not going to lie. So, kind of based, but really honestly, the government shouldn't have a say in who a private company puts up on the screen, but, you know, China's going to do China things. China, they're the worst. Okay, we're going to have a war. It's a trade war with China, because China, they're taking American jobs. We need to stop that. We're going to end the disastrous TPP and end it for China. And then we're going to go and make peace with North Korea. Okay, greatest president and China. Winnie the Pooh doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay. All right, and with that, we are done. We're done with the news here. And the last thing we do on Monday is one of the Ferengi rules of acquisition. We've been doing this for quite a while now, actually. And I really like the idea. Actually going through a piece of the culture or pop culture and talking a bit about how it applies to real life and how they came to the conclusions. Where were we? We are at the 19th. So last week we did a Ferengi without profit. It's no Ferengi at all, which I, for the most part, disagreed with. But I still think that we should go out there and look to build our holdings as best as we can to make it better for our next generations. We should always do that. But our next one here, the 19th rule of acquisition: satisfaction is not guaranteed. This is from DS9 novel, Legends of the Ferengi, which I've not read, but I think should be on my reading list at some point here. Satisfaction is not guaranteed. Now, I don't know the context of this because this didn't come from the show, but that is something we can carry in and look at to our lives. Now, a lot of companies will come out and say satisfaction is guaranteed, opening themselves up to the lawsuits of, well, I bought this and I thought the color was just a little bit off, so my satisfaction was not guaranteed. Give me my money back, please. Which can put a lot of companies into a ruin. But really, honestly, satisfaction is not guaranteed. And that's how I run this show too. Your satisfaction, if you watch Contemporary, is not guaranteed. In fact, your satisfaction, if you watch the Red Net show, is not guaranteed. You will not be guaranteed satisfied from this. I will probably say something on the program that will piss you off. I will tell you that I'm going to say something that will probably piss you off. But I will probably say something that will piss you off. Because I am telling you what the news is, and I'm not going to punch it and try to adjust my program and give you your truth on this program. And these little twidgets out there, they think that if they come on Twitch, they can come back and raid out your stream and say, "Oh yeah, no, are you left wing or are you racist?" or stuff like that. You know what? I am very much leave me alone when it comes to the government. Very, very much leave me alone. But yeah, you can't come in here. There's a fly running around here. You can't come in here and expect that I'm going to drop everything to guarantee your satisfaction. And I do want you to be satisfied with the product, but I'm not going to guarantee it because, like I said, at some point you can come out and say, oh, the color is just a little bit off here. I'm not satisfied with this. I'm going to still try to make you the best product, but you might not like the color. You might not like the shape, the texture of something off of this. I'm not going to give you your money back because you saw something that looked like it was purple on the TV screen and you got it in your house and it was mauve. No, I'm not going to give you your money back for that. Your satisfaction is not always guaranteed. Because that opens you up to a very, 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 very dangerous situation where you can lose all your profit. But if we can work together and I can still give you a quality product that will still make your life better, you're still coming out ahead if you consume my product. And since my product is broadcast, if you don't like my product, there are literally thousands of other channels on Twitch you can go to. So no, your satisfaction is not guaranteed here, and it shouldn't be in your regular life either. And that is going to be it. And with that, we'll head out of here for the day. Let's change up the track and let's go. Oh, gotta change up. I gotta open the music player, don't I? Because I had to restart. Because my Fallout 4 wasn't working for shit. Alright, everybody, thank you for coming by and hanging out with me today for Contemporary, and I hope that you guys will be back here at 5:30. That is in Central Time for the Red Net Show featuring my guest host, Harvey McLeod. I don't know when Elaine is coming back at this point. I really don't. I mean, we hope that she comes back and you still see, if you're on the YouTube or the Twitch, you will still see the donate links for her because we are hoping that she'll come back at some point here. But, when there's 9 people living in your house, it makes it a difficult situation to get some office space here. So we will catch up with her when she comes back, but come and join me and Harvey McLeod later on tonight as we discuss the situation in Afghanistan, the resettlement, the abortion bill, and a lot more. That's going to be a great time. Hope to see you guys there, and we do take live chat in between topics, so definitely actually get there, get your live chat in as well. Otherwise, we'll be back here tomorrow, bright and early, earlier than today, obviously, because I overslept today. That was on me, but we'll be back here bright and early tomorrow for more Contemporary. And no Stephen Ignoramus today either, by the way, because he is still spending time with his mom. So Make sure you guys go and sell him and his mom well wishes as well. He'll be back here tomorrow. I'll be back here tomorrow for more Contemporary. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.